Atlanta as well. I'm actually in Atlanta today, Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm happy to be talking to
Oh,
Carolyn
that's
Carolyn Greenleaf of Illinois, and we're talking about connecting consciousness in Illinois. We're all part of this group, and we're just getting started here in Illinois. And I'm taking time to talk to some of our members who have interests and passions in particular areas. And Carolyn's area of interest is event planning and spiritual healing. So, Carolyn, why don't you just go wild?
okay. Well,
Let us know.
actually, this whole event business and that kind of was one of those things that just kind of made sense. My background's actually I'm a spiritual life coach. Energy. I got into this energetic healing way back 20 years plus ago, and everything else that you end up learning about and studying and all that when you have the calling. So, and then I developed my book, Reentering Eden, Reclaiming Your Wholeness and Divine Truth, that is coming back to self, and all this. But what I found and what I, connecting with other, people in the spiritual world and having a business, I just thought, what, we don't have a support. We don't have that support that traditional, vocations have. And so I thought, we need to do something. And plus, I also realized that the community, they have no idea who we are and what we do. We're so, under the radar. We're not really noticed. And so I thought, let's bring those two ideas together and let's start doing some events that will, support the practitioners and it's holistic practitioners and those who have products and services and things like that. All about coming back to the whole person and under being very authentic. We were very picky about who we had as part of our events because we needed them to be authentic. They were in it for the right reasons and all of this because I was trying to make a foundation of respectability because in the past we've been woo-wooed and and all of that. And
So it
so
was curated. So it was your events are curated. Is that right? Would you say?
possibly. Well, what we did was we were creating. We did. I did a couple of expos, and that was where the holistic people they bought booth spaces, okay, and then we had the public come in at a small fee, and did that type of thing. But I always made sure there was entertainment, music, just to kind of
That's lovely.
bring that energy
And
together.
Carolyn, what was the venue? What was the venue? Where were you? Where was the event?
There, actually, the first one was kind of a smaller event in. It was actually a business called Options for Health, but we were able to utilize the entire building, almost a big part of the building. So we had a couple of floors actually, and then I kept seeing some vacant rooms, and I said, "Oh, let's see if we can use that room too," because I'm like, let's just keep growing this thing because it's just kind of fun and exciting, and that's what I think that really events need to be about. It's got to be exciting and fun and cooperative. So I love the whole idea about around the first one. The second one was someone else's idea. This is just a few years ago when the movie Heal came out. Okay, if you remember the kind of it's almost like a documentary, Heal.
I'm not familiar. No, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh wow. Well, I see it as if anyone remembers What the Bleep Do We Know? Okay,
Yes.
this is kind of like an updated version of it. And some of the people in it, like Dr. Joe Dispenza was in it. Actually, Deepak Chopra was also in it. There were a few people from the old one, and then some new people, including Dr. Darren Weissman. So, and he happens to be in Glenview here in Illinois, just about an hour away from us. So,
yes.
So we said, hey, let's bring that movie to a local theater So we contacted, the producers of the movie Heal, and we got the space. We got to rent out the theater, and we got Dr. Darren Weissman to come. So
that's terrific.
That was a fun event. Again, all about, and then I wanted practitioners who were who also did the similar types of modalities that they saw in the movie. So that, I mean, my message was, that was really impressive, that movie, right? Well, you've got the same thing right here in your own backyard. Mm-hmm. And here they are. You're welcome. But anyways, and then the last event was actually, it was a pretty big scaled expo. I think it was a little bit too big. And it kind of got away from us, but so that was another event where we had practitioners and all that, and then the public would come in, and then we had a room for speakers, a couple of rooms for speakers and that type of thing, just to educate, because I just feel that people just need to be educated. If they understand the alternatives that they have besides the traditional alternatives, I think that we're doing them a service, even if it's just kind of starting to get them to think about the idea, kind of breaking open that old foundation. And then, of course, exposure to everybody is what we want to do.
Absolutely, helps awaken them to the topic.
Yes. But the whole idea, as I kind of mentioned before, was, I'm always a little bit, and one of my people said, "You just ahead of your time." And so for me, I wanted All Things Wellness to be a cooperative effort where we all came together. And a lot of people, they would just kind of keep throwing me in the lead. I'm like, no, this is a we. It needs to be a we.
People do like leadership. They like leadership.
Yes, but I feel that, and if we're looking at doing events with with connecting consciousness, we have to connect to the fifth dimensional type of frequency. It's about cooperation. It's about unity. It's about coming together. It's about building something together. And yes, leadership is great, but everyone else needs to come in and really support the effort, and also, provide their gifts towards the organization or towards the event that you're doing. Unfortunately, a lot of, I think that the reason that it just didn't go forward was, the whole expo thing was because we were just saddled with too much of the responsibility. We had our own businesses, and we weren't in this for them. This is really about bringing everybody together, and they just weren't coming together. They were a little bit more stuck in that 3 and 4D ish kind of energy, where I'm going to pay you the money to put it together, to advertise, to do all of the work. And we weren't even charging very much. We kept trying to keep the prices down, but then when we were saddled with everything that we thought that maybe we would get help with, that's when we have problems. And
interesting. So ideally, all the participants would be doing their part, and they'd be promoting it. But I was going to ask you, how did you, from my third dimension viewpoint, how was it promoted, the event?
Well, you see, we used mainstream media. We asked everybody to share it on their platforms. Not many people did. And it was just kind of a common trend, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And we also we did a lot of paid advertising too. We also had some mentions on a radio station and all of this. But, when it comes to connecting consciousness and, coming back to, you want to create some events, I'm assuming that this is events for the group, for the individuals that are in connecting consciousness, or would it be something for the public? In what, because I was trying to think about how.
I think it's both. Even it's from the standpoint of, for our members, we have to be conscious of the idea that it needs to read and translate to the public so that we're not closed down, because we don't want people to think we're having a cult meeting in the open field in their community. So I think that's the part where, as I said, we're not trying to evangelize people, but we do want to be open and accessible. So I think it's as much as a PR thing, a messaging issue, as it is a promotion or a guest list. So I think it is primarily for our members. And I'm looking to see what that would look like, and then how it would read to the public, and how it might be communicated to the public what's going on.
I would start with, because we don't want to put a lot, we want to utilize what we have, because this is not something where we want to pour tons of money in, like, the events that I was doing. That's not what this really, I don't see that that's what it is. So my suggestion is that we continue to get to know each other, okay? So that, because then it's just easier, coordinating, who clicks here and to do this part of this event, who can work together, in these various aspects. But I would definitely, I think that everybody in the group needs to be involved in some way, okay? So it's like a family, you work together to do it, and that working together builds something incredible too, okay? And so even though, whoever is leading this, the responsibility and the heaviness isn't on those individuals, and you, because that's not fun. That's not, so it's kind of everyone is lifting this up. And my idea was always, let's collaborate about ideas. Let's create solutions or ideas. Let's do it together, because then it just creates something that everyone has ownership of. Mm-hmm. And so that to me is also fifth dimensional type of organizing and coming together and building something. And when we're doing that, we are building something even more magnificent, than just doing it the old way of assigning people, yes, we do, everyone will do, their parts of what they're talented at and what they're great at. But then, I say, let's try, why don't you try something else over here or whatever. Let's just all kind of try all these different hats and check it all out and have fun. And, maybe just start also advertisement, our friends and family, and maybe even some flyers, something, again, grassroots, simple, use what we already have. Because we all have friends, family members that, are not part of the group, but maybe they would like to check it out.
Well, you bring up some good points. I definitely like the reminder that we all need to change our thinking. Like, we just don't want to move from one system, I don't want to say failed system, but a system that has served its purpose, and just create another system to replace it. But that's not what we really want to do. We want to change our thinking and our approach instead of repeating the same thing over and over again.
Correct.
And I'm happy to know that you're, since you're in the events business and have had a lot of experience, that you're not in any hurry to jump into an event. Because I said, I do keep hearing events and projects from our members, and I'm not reluctant at all. I'm certainly open to it. But I do agree with you. And I just attended a national facilitators meeting, and they reiterated the idea that we are doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing right now. That is getting to know each other. So that's encouraging. I think I'm glad to hear you say the same thing, because there's nothing wrong with just forming the bonds. And I was reflecting on that, the idea of connecting consciousness. If I am somewhat more awake than I was 6 months ago, that's the point, is to connect with other people who are somewhat more awake. And then I like your idea of inviting and reaching out to other people. I'm also involved in a conservative group, and that was one of our models, was just to reach out to 12 people, like find 12 more people who are really on the same page, but you just were afraid to ask. So I know that most of my family is on this page. Like they're not all members of Connecting Consciousness, but they certainly follow Simon's messages, and
Mm-hmm.
their thinking is all aligned. It's very
Okay.
similar. So are you having that experience in your circle, that people are connected?
You know, it's funny. I heard someone was channeling. It was actually a Michael Jacobs show, and someone that he was interviewing with, he was asking her where humanity was percentage wise in awakening, and before she even said during the day, actually the last few days, I just the excitement within me and that frequency of just keeps building and building,
Mhm.
and I'm like, we're there, we've got to be there. We have got
Mhm.
to be there. There's just, it's just becoming so explosive. I can just feel his energy. And sure enough, she said, we're there. We've reached that point, that tipping point, and it's just now exponential. So yes, I do believe that, a lot of the events, in politics, the whole JAB situation, their BS meters have been really opening up and getting a little bit more fine tuned. And to me, the fifth dimensional frequency that we're moving into, it is about authenticity. And people want, and this is what I think is important if we're putting these events together and we're trying to reach out to other people, is just be authentic. Just be, bring who you truly, just bring your heart, bring who you truly are. And I think in that sense, people are going to be much more responsive than, than what's, the old 3D and some of the lower 4D has been spoon feeding them. And they're looking for truth. And here's another idea too. If we want to do, some events, is that I'm sure there's a lot of people in this group who, have some, who are able to speak about a lot of different subjects,
Yes.
about community, about, whatever, whatever is their, whatever they are knowledgeable about, and you don't have to have a degree. You could be a mother, and talk about family structure.
Yes. Or education. That's certainly related to
Oh
families.
gosh, yes. Oh yes. And then of course, maybe bring a sheriff in. I don't know if Sheriff Mack is going to be available, but all of these pieces that are about community, and maybe, I think people need to they need to be educated about what real community really is. Or let's say, I always go back to, I'm always very, energetic, fifth dimensional, that it's just we're all family. And we need to, a lot of people have had, so much of the 3D brain, pound into them, that they have become so disconnected, because 3D is about disconnection. Now we're moving into a space that 5D, that is all about connection. So we need to learn how to connect, and respect, responsibility, all of these things. Again, looking at what's a family structure.
Yeah, that's so interesting to say that, because it's so obvious that obviously connecting consciousness, I hadn't really thought of connecting as being such an integral part, but you're absolutely right, Carolyn. It's a good point, because I really only felt like I was so startled out of my shell this last fall, in November in particular, that I just immediately started reaching out to people who are in my life, I've known for quite some time, that I've never reached out into any meaningful way about, topics that were going on. And I was well, actually, I wasn't all surprised, because I was ready to reach out to them. I did reach out to them, and I found that they were experiencing exactly the same thing and had exactly the same viewpoint. And they were amazed too. They were like, oh my God, I never would have guessed that you had these same viewpoints.
Yeah.
So
I,
the
I had a couple
connecting
of family
is
members
important.
too. Yeah.
So maybe that's our event is we really need to focus on the connecting
Mhm.
and just simply have a connecting time
Mhm.
of people who, I really didn't like the term like-minded because I've heard that used a few times, but I'm warming up to the idea of like-minded, and that might be a draw, might be a good draw, just a time just to take a chance where it's a safe zone, safe place
Mhm.
to just
Mhm. Right.
connect and find like-minded people.
Maybe it's also about sharing consciousness. Okay. Maybe like-minded people. Maybe that's kind of uh, uh, maybe could be have been a little bothersome because maybe that's an old energy.
That's how I felt about it. I
Yes.
don't want to
Maybe.
just move from this like-minded
Mhm.
people to this like-minded. I don't want to be
Mhm.
like-minded. I want to be awake together.
Yes. Yes. So it's consciousness. People becoming more conscious about whatever aspect in their life that's taking place because it's a domino effect. Because then all of a sudden they starts to because it's like the picture that my guys always gave me is like we have this foundation in our mind, right? And then something comes along and blows our mind. So it's kind of like now all of a sudden there is a crack in that foundation and there's light shining through. And that's why they wanted the crack in there. And but then all of a sudden the cracks become wider and there's more and more and more. Once it starts, it's like an avalanche.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn, when I first looked into this group, they talked about the different topic areas, which was this consciousness and the spiritual and the healing and the children and the education and the med beds. And they also included UFOs. Which do you feel is the most common driver of the groups that you're in? And maybe from as little as you know of our group, what do you think is the most potent thematic driver in our group? Or what was yours? What's brought you? I know your events and your spiritual healing
You
and
know what?
natural healing,
I
but
To me, the most important thing that always comes up is community.
community.
Reconnecting, yes. Reconnecting. Connecting.
Yes, I was just curious because I said the least on my radar was the UFO one. I mean, I'm not familiar with UFOs at all, but we do have somebody in our group who I'm gonna be talking to who seems very passionate and interested in UFOs, and I thought maybe that might be a potential. It's almost so far out that it might be the safest thematic for a possible event because that would be intriguing. I think the average person might think it's amusing, but not as threatening because it's become so much more mainstream now that it might be a good
Yeah.
driver.
Well, but a lot of people still kind of may see it as kind of woo-woo too.
Yeah,
And
but
that,
it's so woo woo that it's not that scary. I think it's
okay.
less scary than consciousness almost. Consciousness, I think,
Mhm.
seems a little daunting to some people, the average public. Most people, because I know from my training as a labyrinth facilitator, they always told us to be very, very careful to ever talk about people's minds, like, relaxing your mind or get out of your mind or, having experiences outside your head. You never want to go there because people are they identify with their brain and their thinking, and that is their identity for many people. So you don't want to suggest the idea that they're going to be, calm your brain or change do anything with your brain because people find that too threatening.
Okay.
I don't want to threaten you, Carolyn.
Oh no, 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 no. I see. No, no. Believe me, I am not threatened. And all these subjects are, yeah, I get it. Um,
Well, but just lastly, what is your like the theater event where you had the speaker talking? That sounds like that was phenomenal. And you've had a variety of different events, smaller, medium, large. Sounds like the smaller one was more to your liking, but what is maybe you haven't had it, but what's your ideal event scenario? Like I said, just in talking to people, people have had the idea of music and art, and those are things I wouldn't have thought of. But what would be your ideal recipe? I know you just finished baking those cupcakes, but
I
what would
did.
be your
My daughter's
ideal
birthday.
daughter's birthday?
Yes.
I love the fact that you were making the cupcakes, you were mixing them and cooking
Mhm.
them, but I love that you asked your daughter, like you acquiesced to her. It's her birthday, so you
Of
delivered
course.
the type of cupcake. And I thought that was really terrific because it's just an example of it is not all about us. I mean, you're doing the thing, you're putting it together, but it's not all about us.
Right.
So
We have to be respectful of who we're
yes,
doing this for, right?
yes. So
And
what would be your best cupcake event scenario?
I thought about for just if we were to do an event just to bring the groups together first, okay, just kind of really connect on the physical level. Having a potluck,
Oh, there you
something
go.
old fashioned, okay.
That's a
Some
good
people
one.
I mean, you're bringing something from love, right? And even people who don't cook, they can still pick up stuff to put on a grill or whatever,
Well,
So
that's a good one.
I love ideas that where everybody is participating
I'm going to
because then
suggest that
they feel part of something.
I'm going to suggest that to Dina because Dina is the one that has that large field. I don't know if you've been on the calls on Saturday, but she has the large field,
Yes, I
and she's
heard, yeah, at least one or two people say, "Hey, I've got space."
yes,
And yeah, definitely. I would utilize, again, just tapping it,
yes.
just finding out who has what to offer.
And potluck
And
or picnic, you're right. That's a ready-made. The idea
yeah,
of people bringing something to the table, literally, is a great exercise. And people in their minds, when you say picnic or potluck, you don't have to tell them what it is because they know that. It's ingrained in their brain. That's excellent, Carol. That's why we're paying you the big money
all
to
right.
consult on this. Carol, I have one last question for you, and that is, you mentioned these natural remedies. Are you the one that posted something about the pine needle tea or pine needles in one of
I
our
I
platforms?
I did not, but I do know of it. That's in my files. That's one of
Okay.
those remedies. Yes, I did buy some. I haven't used them yet. I'm currently experimenting with CDS, which is a form of MMS.
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, well, both of those also are very good, and this is something I want to share with the group too. As soon as I get it all together in a document, I will share that document too.
And
Um,
is it related to the pine needle? Because that's been one of the topics in our
they're
conversations.
they're they are all very good for the sea. Oh yeah, this isn't. We're not broadcasting, but for COVID, for
Oh, okay.
any kind of virus, also for shedding
Okay.
problems. Okay.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Yeah. And I putting that document together for my clients and all that, my students. So I'm going to be sharing that too on one call.
Terrific.
I'll send it over to you.
Well, that's good to know. So if your daughter had not requested the confetti cupcakes, is that
Mm-hmm.
what she would have gotten? She would have gotten the special spiritual healing pine needle cupcakes instead?
No, no. No, I probably would have made something chocolate, something very decadent and all from
Oh.
scratch, all from the heart, gluten free, that type of thing.
Well, Carolyn,
That's me.
when we have our potluck, I'll be sure to put you down for the dessert then.
Okay. And I may
Uh,
bring something healthy too.
Carolyn, are you enjoying we've only been at this for a month or so. Not even, yeah, exactly a month. We started on June 1st, and now it's July 1st. Are you enjoying your journey so far in Illinois Connecting Consciousness?
Yeah, well, I was only on one call actually, and a couple of weeks ago, last week I missed it. I have to say 8 o'clock in the morning is a little early for me on a Saturday, but I will try to make
Well,
it this Saturday.
we're going to try a different date. Actually, we're not going to have one this Saturday because it's the holiday, but
Oh,
we're going to try.
oh, it's
I will be
right.
having one on Saturday, the 17th of July, but I'm going to have one in between on some weeknight for people who can't make the Saturday.
Okay.
And as I explained last Saturday, that this group is not about a Saturday call. Like the Saturday call is not, that's not it. That's just what we're
Okay.
doing at the moment. So we'll
Okay.
get you in on there. Are you on the Slack program, Slack platform by any chance?
I am, but I've been really busy with a couple of projects. I mean, I keep checking in and I'm like, I still got to figure out the Slack thing, but I launched a podcast and I've launched a membership also called Conscious Reality. No,
Terrific.
what is it? Yeah, Conscious Reality membership. Yes. So it's all about, how are we going to form this new reality that we're moving into? That type of
That
thing.
sounds phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well,
So, and these are a lot of things that I will want to share with the group. Just kind of,
excellent.
throw
Well,
in some things in
I know a
because
number of people in our group have groups or had groups, and I definitely want to support that. I think we should not get rid of those groups. We should pick them up or resurrect them and
okay.
bring them in, because if those are areas of interest that people were interested in, had people involved in activity, maybe we can help them resurrect them or support them by
Good. Well,
driving
now
some new members.
I'm also excited about this podcast that I started. This is, again, I'm going to be pulling some people. I'll have you on too. It's called Waking Up: Conscious Discussions About Our Changing Reality.
Yeah, I could speak to that because I can tell you I've only recently kind of come to terms with all the changes. Like I didn't realize I was going to have to leave some things behind of the old reality, and I like some of the old things, but I'm there's no for me there's no choice. Like I mean, I'm not going to not move on, but I haven't been aware that there are some things that are left behind in the
I
process.
like I like to see that instead of leaving the past behind, okay, we are transmuting it. We're transforming our relationship to it. So this is something one of my guides always told me, is that as we're moving into this new reality, and this is where a lot of people are a little fearful or a little confused or kind of anxious about, is that they don't want to leave certain things behind. Well, anything that was created from love goes forward with you. What is transmuted and left behind are the fears, the anxiety, all the traumas related to the past experiences. Okay.
Yes.
So what I realized is that our past experiences, even though they appear to be negative, they were actually lessons. They were for our growth or for our healing in some aspect. And those old lessons that are kind of like almost enveloped in trauma, okay, because of the way that we felt when we went through them. When we release those, when we resolve and release those things, we then actually, the gift, the teaching, the healing that was meant to provide us then becomes part of us. But we've got to be willing to let it, we have to be willing to let it go without fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I tell people, always connect with your guides and angels, have them help you through this so that you don't feel fear. So, we're not, this new reality that we're moving into, this new consciousness, or this expanding consciousness, is just expanding our experience. It's just making everything better. So the things that we're leaving behind are really about lack. It's about fear. It's about disconnection. And all the things that just didn't really work.
Exactly. Yeah, there were a lot of things that just weren't. Well, they worked at the time, but they really have ceased to be productive. So I don't have a problem. I don't have anxiety about leaving anything that I'm leaving behind. I just am aware of it. So I'm mindful of it for other people because it can be cause apprehension to people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Carolyn, I want to thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I said you're one of the people that, even though you've been on our call once, I had your name written down in big letters, and I saw that you mentioned events. I thought, I'm hearing about events, and I think you did a good job. I wasn't expecting to get ideas. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. We got those thoughts and some great insight into exactly where we are right now. on our journey all together, which we are all on this journey together
Yes.
through
Yes. Yes.
awakening and
And so
consciousness.
please reach out to me anytime that you want to discuss an idea, or, or if you need assistance in some way, because, being in charge of a big group is not easy. So,
Well, if you have any complaints, just contact the coordinator. Complain to him.
no. We need to support the coordinator. We need to be the wind under under your wings. So that's
Well, I feel very supported. And I said, I personally just enjoy listening to people. I think I might have tuned out there for a minute. I just enjoy listening to people and kind of meditating on everything that's said and trying to let it distill into what our direction needs to be. But Carolyn, thank you so much. I know it's your daughter's birthday and we probably should say good night. But until next time, please take care and keep the cupcakes coming.
I will.
Thank you so
And
much.
just let me know about the event, and I will help in whatever way that I can. And I'll do cupcakes, and you can choose.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Have a good night. Bye bye.
Good night.